What really happens when your ex ruins your wedding and you try to spin it so you stay the victim? How far can a husband go with only calm planning and quiet records when his bride keeps humiliating him in public? Why did I think I could control the story right up until the moment a stranger said my name in a courthouse plaza and handed me an envelope? My name is Isolde, and I still think our wedding was beautiful, even if everyone pretends it was a disaster now. The hotel ballroom looked like one of my mood boards come to life, with the warm lights, the long tables with soft flowers, the perfect backdrop wall where people could take photos and tag us. I worked so hard on that wall. I kept checking that people were standing in front of it, holding their drinks, smiling for their stories. I said to myself that the most important thing was the look and the vibe, not the small details, like how stiff Noah's shoulders were when we did our first dance, or how his smile did not reach his eyes when people clapped for us. He said he was just tired from planning. I said he should at least pretend better since everyone was watching. I liked that everyone was watching me. I liked that even before Luca took the mic, I could feel his eyes on me from the side of the room, the way he always used to look at me like I was trouble and art at the same time. Noah never looked at me like that. Noah looked at me like I was an exam he wanted to pass, something serious and careful. So yes, I invited Luca. And yes, I knew he still had feelings, but I told myself that this only proved my value, that it showed how powerful love could be, and that Noah should be proud to have a woman that other men could not forget. When Luca stood up for his speech, I already knew he had drunk too much. His walk was loose, his shirt half open, his tie gone. People laughed and whistled because he waved his glass around and called me our star bride earlier in the night, and everyone knew he was my ex. Noah glanced at me once like he was asking silently if this was a good idea, and I just smiled at him and nudged his leg under the table, telling him in a low voice that it would be fine and that Luca was harmless. Then Luca took the microphone and started his little show. He said many things that made people laugh at first. He talked about the old days, how we used to stay out too late and miss our first classes, how I was the one who always made boring rooms feel like a movie scene. I watched everyone's faces and saw admiration there, and I liked it, even when I felt Noah getting more still beside me. He asked me quietly why Luca was talking like we were still together. I told him he was being jealous in front of his own family and that this was not a good look for him. The part everyone remembers is when Luca suddenly stopped laughing and spoke in a heavier voice. He said that Noah was lucky because some men have to live with memories and some men still have the real thing in their bed. Then he looked straight at me and said that some people here knew that over did not really mean over and that the sheets did not lie. The room went very quiet for a second. You could hear cutlery stop, and I felt Noah's hand pull away from mine. I also saw two of my friends lift their phones higher, recording the moment, because that is what people do now. It was stupid of Luca, yes, but it was not as bad as people pretend. We had met a few times after I got with Noah, but only for closure, only because I needed to prove to myself that my choice was right. And maybe once or twice there was more than closure, but that did not mean what he made it sound like. Still, I saw the way some guests turned to Noah, and I knew I had to control the scene fast. So I stood up and laughed, loud and bright, like it was the funniest joke in the world. I took the mic from Luca and told everyone that some exes never leave high school in their heads, that wine makes old stories sound new, and that it was sad when a man could not accept that a woman had moved on. People laughed again, a bit forced, but they laughed, and I looked down at Noah as if I had just saved him. He did not smile back, he just stared at the tablecloth. Later, at the bar, my bridesmaid Tori asked if what Luca said was true, and I told her she was rude for asking that on my wedding night. Then I added that men always exaggerate to feel important. Maeve, my sister, said Noah looked really hurt. I replied that he should be grateful someone like me picked him instead of Luca, and that if he had some spine he would laugh it off like a king. We talked about how viral the clip might go. Tori said it was iconic, and I liked that word. When the night ended and we finally left the ballroom, Noah did not try to touch me in the elevator. His jaw was tight, his eyes were red, but not from drunken joy like Luca's. He asked me once in a calm, slow voice if what Luca said had any truth. I told him that if he wanted to ruin our first night as husband and wife by believing a drunk man over his own wife, that was on him. I said he was making himself the victim when I was the one who had to deal with a crazy ex in front of everyone. He went quiet after that, which felt unfair because I was the one holding this marriage together, not him. On the landing outside our apartment, I watched him unlock the door without looking at me. He placed his phone on the small console table, screen up. While he walked ahead, the screen lit up with a missed call marked private. A little coloured dot sat under a date on his calendar, some appointment I did not recognise. For a moment, I felt a small stab of something like fear. Then I told myself he was just being dramatic and probably setting some boring reminder for work. He went straight into the bedroom and closed the door with a soft click, not a slam, which somehow felt colder. I stood in the hallway in my dress and veil, my feet aching, my heart hot with anger. I told myself he owed me a fight, that silence was childish and cruel, and that tomorrow everyone would hear my version first. The next morning the dress was hanging crooked on the closet door, and I was in an oversized t-shirt at the kitchen island, scrolling through my tagged photos. The ballroom looked even better on screen than in my memory. The fairy lights, the flowers, my hair, my skin, everything looked like an ad. Yes, in a few clips you could see Luca with the mic, leaning in too close, but you could also see me taking control and laughing it off. I told myself that anyone who was smart would see I was the mature one. Noah came into the kitchen in that slow, careful way he has, like he did not want to touch the air wrong. His tie and jacket were gone. He was in a plain t-shirt and sweatpants, eyes tired, hair a bit messy. He said he did not sleep well. I told him maybe he should have talked instead of hiding in the bedroom like a teenager. He did not bite back. He just went to the coffee machine and started it, pressing the buttons with little clicks that annoyed me. I asked if he was mad because it would be easier if he yelled and got it out. He said in a flat voice that he was not sure mad was the word. He said maybe hurt or confused fitted better. I told him those were dramatic words for a grown man who had just married the woman he always wanted. I said Luca was drunk and that if Noah loved me, he would know the truth. I did not say exactly what the truth was, because why feed his imagination? He took his coffee and put his phone on the counter. A little notification slid down from the top, a calendar reminder being created. I saw the text for half a second before he locked the screen. It said, Old Town 10:40 a.m. I asked what it was because we were supposed to start our late honeymoon that afternoon, drive down the coast, check into the boutique hotel I picked. He said it was just a quick errand, nothing to do with me. That answer was rude, so I told him he was starting our marriage with secrets. He said we both knew secrets were not new. I pretended I did not hear that and went back to my phone. I posted a photo of us at the reception, where he was kissing my forehead and I was laughing with my eyes closed. I wrote that real love survives all drama, and that some people try to ruin special moments because they cannot stand to see others happy. I added a winking emoji so it felt less heavy. Comments started coming in fast. People wrote how gorgeous I looked, how they loved a messy queen who could still be romantic. That made me feel powerful again. He left for Old Town the next morning just after sunrise. I heard the door close softly. I stayed in bed and scrolled. When I woke again, the clock on my phone said 10:45. I pictured him somewhere on those old streets, maybe in a cafe, maybe walking and thinking. I told myself he had gone to buy some surprise for me, maybe something simple like a necklace to say he still trusted me. That is the kind of story I preferred. By the time he came back, his face was calmer, not softer, but smoother somehow. There was a new distance in his eyes, like he had put up a glass wall. I asked if he had gone to see his mother, because she was the type to whisper poison in his ear. He said no, it was a personal meeting and he did not want to talk about it. Normally I would keep pushing, but the way he said it was so even that I did not know where to press. We drove down to the coast in silence most of the way. I played music and sang along to the songs I liked, and he kept his hands steady on the wheel, eyes fixed on the road. At the hotel, I made him stand on the balcony while I took a series of photos. I angled his face and told him to smile more. He smiled with his mouth, not his eyes, but it was fine for the screen. I posted a carousel, writing about healing on the water and choosing each other after chaos. People loved it. They sent hearts and comments saying we were couple goals. Someone asked what had really happened with the ex at the wedding. I replied under the comment that some men never grow up and try to sabotage strong love. I tagged Noah in the post. He did not like or share it. When I mentioned that, he said he did not feel like being content. I told him he was ungrateful because most men would kill to be in a feed like mine. That night, when we went to bed in the hotel room, he did something new. Instead of reaching for me, instead of trying to talk or touch me, he lay down on his back and stared at the ceiling. I complained that the tension was exhausting and asked if we could just act normal. He said he was trying to decide what normal even meant for us now. I rolled my eyes and said normal was me choosing him and him being happy about it. He did not fight. He just turned off his bedside lamp and said we could talk back at home, not here. I lay there in the dark with my phone screen glowing under the blanket, reading the comments again and again. One of my friends sent a message asking if Noah was okay because in one of the tagged videos he looked like he was about to break. I said he was fine and just sensitive. I told her he knew the truth, that I was loyal now, and that some men just needed more time to get over their pride. When we got back to the apartment after the trip, his calm did not go away. If anything, it got stronger. We sat at the kitchen island again, with our suitcases half unpacked in the hallway. He made his coffee without asking if I wanted any. He listened while I talked about how we should do a joint post answering the drama, and he did not argue. But he also did not agree. He said there were things we needed to discuss that were not for the internet. I said he was being controlling. That night, he waited until I was already in bed scrolling before he came in and quietly took a pillow from our bed. He said he might sleep on the couch because he had work early and needed real rest. I laughed and told him to stop punishing me like a child. He nodded once, not angry, just distant, and walked out with the pillow. I heard him lie down in the other room, the sofa creaking. I expected him to come back after a while, but he did not. The next week, I went back to the co-working space like normal, even though nothing felt normal at home anymore. I told myself that work would fix my mood. Work always did. At least there, people saw me as the creative one who made things pretty, not as the wife of a man who could not handle a little drama. I wore a fitted blazer and did my hair smooth and glossy because I wanted the world to see a woman who had moved past a silly wedding moment. As soon as I opened my laptop, the office Wi-Fi pulled in every tag and notification I had missed. My feed was full of the wedding clips. Some were cute, little clips of our first dance or my father trying not to cry. But the ones with the most views were obviously the ones with Luca. People had zoomed in on my face, on Noah's face, on Luca's grin. There were stupid captions about love triangles and messy brides. I told myself that the attention was still good attention, as long as they spelled my name right. I could feel people looking at me over their screens. When I went to make coffee, two of the younger women from the marketing team lowered their voices and went quiet. I smiled at them anyway, because I refuse to be small just because other people are awkward. At my desk, I opened my workboard and started arranging content ideas for my main client. Bright colours, quick captions, all about confidence. It looked even more fake than usual, but I pushed that thought away. Around mid-morning, Mr. Henley came over and asked if we could talk for a minute. He said there were some concerns from a client who had seen the wedding video. He said they were worried about brand risk and asked politely if everything at home was stable. I felt my whole back go stiff. I told him it was just a drunk ex and that my audience loves authenticity. I said the numbers were up since the wedding and that maybe the clients should be happy about extra reach. He listened and nodded, but I could tell he did not agree. He said he just wanted me to be careful, because people do not always separate content from character. I told him in a calm voice that my character was loyalty and strength, that I chose my husband over drama every day, and that anyone who watched the full video could see that. I did not admit that the full video also showed Noah's face when Luca talked about our bed. When I got home that evening, Noah was at the kitchen table with his laptop open. There was a spreadsheet on the screen with little lines and boxes. I saw letters and numbers, almost like initials next to dates. I asked if he was doing something for work. He said he was just sorting out expenses and getting organized. I reminded him that I usually handled the creative side, and he handled the boring side, and he could keep that job. He did not laugh. While I went to change, my phone buzzed with a new clip from one of my friends. It was from a rooftop bar, a night out with the girls she was planning, and she wanted me there as the main drama character, even if she did not say it like that. I thought of Noah at the table, shoulders straight, eyes on the numbers. I decided he needed to see me wanted and adored again. Maybe that would shake him back into feeling. The next day, when I picked up his phone to move it off the couch, a small alarm popped up on the screen before it locked. It was labelled Paper Drop 3:15 p.m. There was also a message thread at the top called Follow Up. I tapped the screen, but it locked fully before I could open anything. He came out of the bathroom right then, saw me holding his phone, and took it from me gently. He said he had to run an errand that afternoon and might be late. I asked him what kind of errand needed a label like that. He just said it was personal and that he was allowed to have those. After he left, I noticed a thin binder on the counter labelled Utilities. It was thicker than just bills should be. When I flipped it open, I saw neat plastic sleeves with copies of statements, but I did not have time to look closely before he came back. He saw me there and did not shout or accuse me. He just closed the binder calmly and said he was finally getting around to being organised. His calm was worse than anger. It made everything feel certain in a way I did not like. By the time I got to the rooftop bar that night, I was already a little wound up. The view was pretty, with lights of the city below and soft music playing. My friends had gathered at a long, high table, with drinks and phones out. They greeted me with loud squeals, touching my ring, asking if I had recovered from that wild speech at the wedding. I told them I was fine, and that some men cannot stand that their ex is now a wife. As the night went on, the talk turned to the clip again. They asked how Noah was taking it. I said he was acting like a martyr and using it as an excuse to be cold. I told them he was sleeping on the couch like some tragic movie hero and refusing to kiss me on camera. They laughed at that, but some of them also glanced at each other. I saw doubt in a few eyes and felt a hot flush in my chest. I decided to push harder. I retold the speech, exaggerating Luca's words, making them sound more romantic than crude. I said that some men are just magnetic and that the universe likes to keep them in our lives. I added that Noah should thank Luca for showing the world that I was still a catch. I framed it as a funny story, not something painful. I said it like Noah was lucky to be chosen, as if the whole thing was a big joke he should be adult enough to handle. While I talked, I noticed one girl on the other side of the table lifting her phone and angling it toward me. She was recording me, or maybe recording all of us, but the lens was clearly catching my face while I smirked and pushed my hair back. A few others leaned in, chanting for a toast to the most dramatic bride of the year. I felt the old rush of being the centre, of being the story. Later, when most of the glasses were empty and the air was cooler, my best friend Tori pulled me aside near the rail. She asked if Noah had really seen all the clips yet. I said he had, and that he needed to grow thicker skin. She told me quietly that he looked genuinely hurt in the videos, not just embarrassed, and that maybe I should stop posting about it. I snapped that she was taking his side and that no one cared about his feelings more than mine. She stepped back, hands up, and did not push again. When I got home, the apartment felt different. The guest bedroom bed was neatly made, with some of Noah's shirts folded on the chair. His wallet and keys were no longer on the little tray by the door. The tray was empty. In the kitchen, The utilities binder was now joined by a household folder and a stack of mail turned face down. His laptop was closed, and his phone was charging on the counter, screen dark, face down. I told myself he was just being dramatic and trying to scare me into feeling guilty. I told myself he would come around once he saw how strong I looked online. But somewhere under all that, a small part of me saw his new order and felt a chill. I did not plan the joint family dinner at the big restaurant. That was Noah's mother's idea, which made it worse. She sent a polite message in the family chat, saying it would be nice to sit together and celebrate the marriage properly. I could hear the hidden meaning in that word, properly. Still, I agreed, because I was not going to hide from anyone. If there was a story to tell, I wanted to be the one telling it. The long table was already half full when I arrived with my parents and Maeve. There were candles, kid menus, and too many forks lined up. Elaine and Patrick sat on one side, neat and quiet. Noah was at the end, in a button-down shirt, not looking at his phone, just folding his napkin. He stood when I walked in and kissed my cheek, but it was a polite kiss, the kind you give to an aunt. My father noticed and frowned. My mother, Rena, whispered that he was still sulking and I should charm him back. I took the seat beside Noah and asked him, in a light voice, if he was ready for the peace summit. He said it was just a dinner. I told him that people were expecting us to show we were strong and united. He said he was not a show. That annoyed me, because I knew very well he was part of the show. We were a brand now, whether he liked it or not. When everyone was seated, I raised my glass and said a few words. I thanked both families for coming, and I joked about the most memorable speech in wedding history. I could feel Noah's body go still beside me. My mother laughed loudly and said that at least Luca had given us a good story to tell. Elaine's jaw tightened just a little. I retold the story in a softer, polished way. I said Luca was drunk and trying to hold on to the past. I painted myself as the patient woman who smiled and took the hit so the night could continue. I said Noah had been shocked, of course, but a real man knows the difference between truth and jealous noise. I made sure to say that I chose Noah, and that I had never regretted that choice. That part was not fully true, but it sounded good. Elaine put her fork down and asked calmly if I thought it was funny that another man talked about our bed in front of their families. I replied that I thought it was sad and immature, and that Luca clearly had not moved on. I added that Noah should be proud that I turned down temptation and still came home to him. The table went quiet for a second. Patrick looked at Noah, not at me. Noah said nothing. He just took a sip of water and watched his plate. My father tried to lighten the mood and joked that at least no one would forget the wedding. My mother said that some men are just too sensitive, that if you marry a beautiful woman, you have to accept attention. Elaine looked at my mother with a small, cool smile and said that respect should not be optional, even for beautiful women. At one point, Noah stood up and said he needed to take a call. His phone had vibrated on the table, but there was no name on the screen, just private. He walked toward the hallway near the restrooms, putting in his headphones as he went. I watched him through the glass panel. He spoke in a low voice, turned slightly away from the dining room. When he pulled his phone back to look at the screen, I saw a small calendar notification flash. Meeting personal, set to repeat weekly. He tapped it away quickly. When he came back, his face was even calmer. He did not rejoin the main talk. He mostly listened. When my mother said again that Noah should relax and stop acting like a victim, Noah simply said that people process pain in different ways and that some wounds are not jokes. It was the closest thing to a sharp line I had heard from him in weeks. I rolled my eyes and called him poetic under my breath. After dinner, while our parents were paying and arguing softly about who should cover the bill, I went outside to get some air. Across the street was a small park with a playground and a few benches. I saw Noah there sitting on a bench with his niece, Jade. Elaine stood nearby, watching them. Jade swung her legs and talked with the open face of a child who does not know how heavy her words can be. I walked closer and caught a piece of their talk. Jade asked why everyone had been mad at Uncle Noah at the wedding. She said she saw the video on her older cousin's phone, the one where the man with messy hair shouted something about beds. She said she did not understand why people were laughing if Noah looked sad. I felt my chest tighten. Elaine told Jade that sometimes adults act badly and that feelings get hurt. She did not say my name, but she did not need to. Noah told Jade he was okay, that sometimes people choose different paths, and grown-ups have to make sure everyone is safe and respected. His voice was calm, almost gentle. I stepped forward and said that some people like to keep drama going, and that everything was fine now. Jade looked at me with big eyes and asked why I laughed in the video if it was not funny. That question hit like a slap, but from a child you cannot slap back. I told her I was trying to protect the night and keep everyone from crying. She nodded slowly, like she did not fully buy it but wanted to move on. Elaine gave me a small, tight nod that felt like judgment dressed as politeness. That night, back at the apartment, the distance grew another inch. The guest bedroom was no longer just neat, it looked lived in. Noah had a small stack of books on the nightstand there, his charger plugged in, a clean shirt on the chair. Our bed in the main room looked like a set piece now, something staged for photos. I tried to pull him into an argument to break that calm shell. I followed him into the guest room and asked if he was planning to live there like a long-term guest. He said he needed sleep and that the drama was affecting his work. I said he was punishing me and that sleeping apart would make people talk. He replied that people were already talking and that maybe the truth was louder than any bed arrangement. Later, when he finally sat on the couch to watch something, his phone stayed face down on the coffee table, close to his hand. When it buzzed, he checked it quietly, typed a short reply, and set it down again. I accused him of hiding something. He said calmly that everyone is allowed private conversations. I reminded him that I had shared my whole life online. He said that was my choice, not his. In bed that night, alone in our room, I scrolled through comments on the new rooftop clip that my friend had posted. In it, I watched myself laugh and talk about how Noah should thank Luca for reminding people I was a catch. The angle caught the little twist in my mouth when I talked about him, more cruel than playful. Some comments joked along, others said they felt sorry for my husband. I blocked a few of those accounts. From down the hallway I heard a soft beep, like a notification from Noah's phone or laptop. Then I heard a drawer slide shut, the quiet click of a key turning in a lock. A moment later, footsteps crossed the floor, and the guest bedroom door closed gently. The next few days felt like I was living with a polite stranger who happened to have my husband's face. Noah stopped reacting to my little jabs and jokes. When I tried to poke him about the rooftop video, he just looked at me with that calm, careful gaze and said he did not watch it. I said he was weak for refusing to face reality. He said quietly that he had seen enough. One afternoon, I came home from a client shoot earlier than planned. The apartment was too quiet. From the hallway, I heard a low hum, a steady grinding sound. When I followed it, I found Noah in the guest room, standing over a small shredder. Strips of old envelopes and papers fell into the bin like snow. His laptop was open on the desk. On the screen, I saw a clean desktop, more empty than I had ever seen it, with 2 folders in the center, Archive A and Archive B. Before he noticed me, I also saw a browser window with tabs for storage options and delivery tracking. He moved the mouse and all of it minimized. He did not jump or yell when he saw me. He simply turned off the shredder and asked if I needed something. I said he was being creepy, shredding things in secret. He replied that he was just getting organized and that it was normal for adults to have their records straight. I laughed and said he was acting like a divorced dad already. He did not answer. Later that evening, I spotted a sticky note on the wall calendar near a date he had circled in red. In his neat handwriting it said, "Bring forms." There was also a recurring event on his phone that popped up while he was rinsing dishes. Meeting, personal. He tapped it away like it was nothing. When I pointed it out, he just said everyone had personal things to handle and that it did not all revolve around me. By then, his side of the house was almost too neat. His clothes were folded, shoes lined up, chargers coiled, documents in single tidy stacks. He stopped engaging whenever I tried to draw him into drama. If I raised my voice, he spoke softer. If I insulted him, he did not even flinch. He asked calm questions instead, things like where the spare keys were kept, what day the building collected recycling, what time our internet contract renewed. I said he sounded like he was planning to move out. He said he was planning to be prepared. The fifth time I sensed one of his secret meetings was on a Friday. His phone lit with a new alarm while it lay on the kitchen counter. Paper drop, 4:05 p.m. Next to it was a calendar entry labelled Courtyard, 11:30 a.m. When I picked the phone up to look closer, it vibrated in my hand and the screen locked. He walked in from the hall just then, took the phone and slipped it into his pocket without raising his voice. He said he had errands that afternoon and would be out for a while. I waited for him to come back upset or dramatic, but when he returned that evening, he looked almost peaceful. Not happy, not warm, just sure. In the parking garage, I caught him as he was getting out of the car. The concrete walls made my words echo. I demanded to know what he was doing, who he was meeting, what paper drop even meant. I accused him of plotting against me, of trying to control the narrative by making me look crazy. He listened without interrupting, keys still in his hand. When I ran out of breath, he finally spoke. He said he was done trying to fix something I clearly did not respect. He said he had been taking careful steps, and that from now on, he would handle things properly. His voice did not shake. It was as if he was telling me the weather. I went to the courthouse plaza because I refused to be scared of a word like properly. The sky was flat and grey, the stone benches full of people who had their own problems, and I told myself we were just meeting to talk, maybe with his parents there as witnesses. I wore a good blazer and lipstick because if he wanted to act serious, I could at least look like I was winning. Noah stood near the fountain with Elaine and Patrick beside him. My parents were a few steps away, looking like they were not sure whose side to stand on. I walked up fast and asked Noah if this was his idea of a date, dragging everyone to some public square. He said calmly that this was just the place where things needed to start. I told him he was being dramatic. Before I could say more, a stranger in a plain jacket came over and looked straight at me. He asked if I was Isolde Merritt Calder. His voice was not loud, but it carried. A few people nearby glanced up. I said yes, obviously, and asked what he wanted. He handed me a thick envelope and said I was being served, then named Noah as the other party. My fingers shook as I opened it. The first lines were about dissolution of marriage and temporary financial and possession orders. There were notes about who would stay in the apartment, how joint accounts would be handled for now, and references to public incidents and recorded statements at the wedding and later. I saw my own rooftop laugh described in cold, plain language. I looked up at Noah, waiting for him to look guilty, to backtrack, to say this was just a warning. He only said that from now on, everything would be handled properly, then turned away with his parents beside him.